Hey guys, it's Ryan here from Explained, and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be watching an Italian superhero action film titled They Call Me Jeg, which was released back in 2015. The plot of the film revolves around a lonely, pessimistic criminal named Enzo, who gets superhuman abilities after getting in close contact with some radioactive waste in the Tiber waters. The film starts with Enzo Ciccati running away from two police officers after stealing an expensive wristwatch. In the process of escaping the police, he tries to hide in an abandoned crane by the Tiber River. The police follow him there, and it seems Enzo's luck is going to run out and the police are going to find him. Having no other choice left, Enzo jumps into the Tiber to avoid being caught and sent to jail. After failing to find Enzo, the police officers get on their way and Enzo saves himself. And when he tries to get out, he climbs out onto a barrel underwater to get back on the crane. Unfortunately, the barrel breaks, causing Enzo to come in contact with radioactive waste. Somehow, Enzo manages to get out from there and runs back to his house. On his way back home on the bus, he keeps coughing out a black substance, which is slowly making him grow weak. Upon reaching home, he spends the whole night feverish and vomiting an unknown substance. The next morning, he wakes up healed, but with a persistent cough. It's almost like he hadn't suffered anything yesterday. He decides to sell the wristwatch that he stole to his next-door neighbor, named Sergio, who works for Fabio Cannizaro, known as the Gypsy, a mad gangster who runs after fame. In the next scene, we see Fabio discussing a job with his associates, which is supposed to involve extracting cocaine from inside a pair of drug mule brothers. Just then, one of Fabio's gang members brings a new phone to him, but the phone is not in the color Fabio wanted. Because of the blunder, Fabio beats him to death. Meanwhile, his associates are terrified watching this. They're accustomed to his psychotic behavior and simply get rid of the body. Meanwhile, Enzo calls Sergio outside and Sergio buys the watch from him in exchange for 100 euros. After taking the money, Enzo decides to go back home, but Sergio has other plans for Enzo. He wants Enzo to accompany him on a dangerous mission to retrieve the drugs. Enzo agrees to do it in exchange for some good chunk of the money. They go to Sergio's house to get the items they need for the mission. For the first time, Enzo meets Sergio's daughter, Alicia, and feels weird by her behavior. She has a collection of childish drawings that she's pasted all over the house. She also tells Enzo about the Steel Jeg anime. Alicia is a psychologically damaged woman who escapes reality by continuously watching the Steel Jeg anime and relating everything to it. On their way to the mission, Sergio apologizes to Enzo for his daughter's behavior, revealing that she's mentally ill and obsessed with Steel Jeg anime. He further tells Enzo that Alicia has always been a special child, but since her mother's death, she's become increasingly detached from reality. Sergio and Enzo then pick up the drug mule brothers outside an airport. One of the brothers isn't doing very well and seems to be in need of urgent medical attention, but Sergio takes them to the top of a building which is under construction. As they prepare to take the drugs out of them, one of the brothers dies. Sergio checks on him and confirms that the container of drugs broke inside his stomach and made him overdose to death. Sergio refuses to take him to the hospital, so the man's brother grabs Sergio's gun and shoots him. Sergio, before dying, bashes the man's head in against a pillar. The man then shoots Enzo in the shoulder, knocking him backward off the building, from the 10th floor to the concrete ground. Surprisingly, Enzo survives. He opens his eyes and gets up, groaning from the pain, even though he shouldn't be alive after the fall. He begins running, confused and traumatized by what he's just witnessed. On his way home, he's stopped by Alicia. He ignores her when she inquires about her father. Despite this, she continues to pound on his door. Out of frustration, Enzo punches the door, making a hole in it. He then discovers that he has acquired extraordinary strength, the reason why he didn't die after falling from a tall building. He tries moving the furniture around and is surprised to see that he can do it effortlessly. Enzo can now take anything and destroy it with just the help of his strength. With his newfound powers, Enzo decides to make it of his use. Later that night, he steals an entire ATM, breaking it with his brand new strength, and is filmed by a security guard. With the stolen money, Enzo buys everything he needs and returns back home. He checks on his wound and finds out that it's completely healed, all on its own. He realizes that he also has self-healing powers. In the next scene, we see Fabio and his men with a lady named Nunzia Locosimo at a club. Nunzia is a terrorist who leads a Camorra clan, one of Rome's most powerful drug traffickers. Fabio was supposed to take the drugs from Sergio and then hand them over to Nunzia, but now that both Sergio and the drug mules are dead, he's at a loss for what to say to her. So he lies to Nunzia, telling her that the deal went well, knowing full well that if she discovers the truth, he'll die. Now Fabio must retrieve the cocaine or pay Nunzia off. In an effort to save his money and life, he and his gang start searching for Sergio. Next, Fabio and his men invade Sergio's place in search of him, finding only Alicia. They threaten her to tell him about Sergio's whereabouts or else they'll kill her. Actually, Fabio didn't know where the deal was going to take place, so he's completely clueless. Enzo is watching all of this unfold but decides not to help her. After telling Enzo to get away, not knowing he too was involved in the deal, Fabio gets back to questioning Alicia. Fabio believes that Sergio has fled with the drugs and has double-crossed him. Fabio places a butcher knife against Alicia's throat and asks where her father is, but she's completely unaware of what's going on. Alicia's silence irritates Fabio even more. Just then, Enzo bursts in through the window wearing a mask and a hoodie to conceal his identity. He picks up one of Fabio's thugs and slams him against a table. Others attempt to beat him, but they're easily defeated by his superhuman powers. Fabio and his people make a run for their life, realizing they can't win. Fabio, on the other hand, manages to attack Enzo on his feet with the butcher knife, chopping off his toe. Enzo rescues Alicia and takes her to his home to ensure her safety. He reattaches his chopped off toe to his foot with tape, hoping it will be attached by morning. Meanwhile, Alicia mistakes him for Hiroshi Shiba, the hero of Steel Jeg. Because she's mentally ill, she believes he has finally come to save her. Enzo ignores her and continues with his chores. The next morning, Enzo notices that his toe is not magically attached to his body. He accepts the reality and asks Alicia if she has any relatives she could stay with. Enzo refuses to take responsibility, but Alicia claims that her father is her only relative. He takes her to a residential care home where she previously stayed while her father was in prison because he has nowhere else to take her. She resists letting Enzo go, but he falsely assures her that he'll return soon. Meanwhile, the surveillance video of Enzo stealing the ATM from a CCTV camera has gone viral on the internet, and the press calls Enzo a super criminal, although no one knows his true identity. Fabio sees the viral video and recognizes the man as the one they fought in Sergio's apartment. The gang is tense because the drugs have not yet been discovered. Antonio, Fabio's right-hand man, suggests taking out a loan to pay Nunzia for the deal. Fabio, on the other hand, is not a fan of the idea. Instead, he proposes that they rob an armored truck and use it to pay off Nunzia. When Enzo returns home, he discovers information hidden in Sergio's spectacle case. The papers have devised a complex scheme to rob the same armored truck. The next day, Fabio and his gang members are hiding by the side of the highway to rob the truck. Meanwhile, Enzo, armed with guns, robs the valuable contents of the same armored truck that Fabio and his gang are about to assault. Fabio fires several rounds at him, but Enzo manages to flee before they can catch him. This increases Enzo's infamy, making Fabio even more jealous. Shortly thereafter, two police officers bring Alicia to Enzo after they find her wandering in the street, and Enzo takes her in. That night, they watch her favorite anime together, a Steel Jag episode. Enzo tries to get closer to her while they're watching TV. Alicia becomes terrified and begs him to stop because she doesn't want to be hurt. After Enzo calms her down, Alicia reveals that she's been sexually assaulted in the past. Because she thinks Enzo is a superhero, she asks him to take her to her father the next day. The next day, Enzo takes her to an abandoned amusement park. He makes a Ferris wheel move with his strength so Alicia can enjoy it. Meanwhile, Fabio and Antonio get into a fight because Antonio wants to take out a loan to get out of Nunzia's problems, but Fabio is strictly against the idea. Antonio makes it really clear that he isn't going to risk his life and is adamant that taking out a loan is the only option. Seeing that Antonio could be a problem for his leadership and how his gang members view him, Fabio lets his Rottweilers free to maul Antonio and gets him killed. In the meantime, with no other options left, Fabio contacts Brazilian loan shark Marcelone to pay Nunzia. However, before he can loan the money, Fabio gets attacked by Nunzia and her gang because he hasn't paid the money on time. Fabio gets beaten up and it looks like he's going to get killed, but just then Marcelone takes her gun out and saves Fabio. In the ensuing clash between the two parties, Nunzia, Fabio, and Marcelone are the only ones to survive in the end. Afterwards, Fabio returns to his place and finds all of his gang members killed. Meanwhile, Enzo takes Alicia to a shopping mall in search of a princess gown that she has always dreamt of. Upon Alicia's consent, they end up kissing and making love in the changing room. Just after that, Enzo reveals the truth of her father's death. Listening to the truth, Alicia becomes enraged and accuses Enzo of allowing her father to die. Alicia flees in anger and boards a tram, but Enzo uses his superpowers to stop it. He apologizes to Alicia, telling her that he cares about her and offers to take her to see her father's body. When Enzo looks around, he notices that he's being filmed by the passengers and that the people have probably seen him stop the tram, so he flees with Alicia in a hurry. When the news of the armored robbery reaches the television, Enzo becomes known as the super criminal. Envious of his fame, Fabio makes it his personal goal to reach Enzo's level of superhuman strength. Fabio recognizes Enzo in the video clip of him stopping the tram and approaches him to inquire about his secret. Now that the police know what Enzo looks like, he and Alicia decide to flee to another city. They spend the night in a hotel. All of a sudden, Fabio bursts in and hits him with a tranquilizer gun. Enzo loses consciousness and he wakes up bound to a bed with duct tape. Fabio, along with his assistant Tanzana, threatens him with Alicia's life if he does not reveal how he obtained his superpowers. So Enzo takes him to the quay and tells him to jump in. Fabio's skeptical, believing that Enzo is attempting to drown him so that he can escape. Just then, Nunzia and her entourage arrive and begin firing at him. Fabio immediately uses Alicia to protect himself. In the shootout, Alicia and Fabio are shot to death. Nunzia further shoots Fabio multiple times and then burns him alive with a flamethrower. Lastly, she pushes him into the river. On the other hand, taking her last breaths, Alicia asks Enzo to use his superpower to help others. The next morning, Fabio emerges alive from the river, scared and burned with the superpowers like Enzo. The radioactive substance appears to have affected him, and he has gained super strength as well. He returns to Naples, where Nunzia lives, and takes his vengeance by murdering Nunzia and her gang. He also films himself killing everyone in the hopes of becoming as famous as Enzo. Then he discovers many explosives hidden throughout the house. Nunzia was planning a bombing of the city. Meanwhile, Enzo is off on his own, disheartened by Alicia's death. On his way, he sees a woman and her daughter get into a car accident near him. He uses his abilities to rescue the girl from the burning car. The mother expresses her gratitude by hugging him, which reminds him of Alicia and her final words to him. He later sees a video on TV in which Fabio threatens to bomb the Stadio Olimpico. Fabio simply wants to terrorize everyone, so Enzo sets out to find him right away. He walks into a packed stadium. On his search, he discovers Fabio in the parking lot, holding the explosives remote control. They fight for a while and then Fabio sprints inside the stadium, getting lost in the crowd. After running for a long time, Enzo finds the explosives in an ambulance but is unable to defuse it. He carries it with him and runs from the bridge across the Tiber. Fabio tracks him down and prevents him from tossing the explosives in the water. In the final showdown, the two battle it out for the remote control of the bomb with only a minute left before it explodes. Enzo grabs it at the last possible moment and dives into the river along with Fabio. Fabio's killed in the explosion. Enzo is also thought dead and exalted as a hero. In the final scene of the movie, Enzo watches over Rome from the Colosseum. He puts on a jegue mask that Alicia knitted for him, thinking of helping others as long as he's alive. And that's how the movie ends. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down your thoughts on the movie in the comments section. And before you leave, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.